sa'yo kanina, what are the three markers of osmolality? Sodium, glucose, and urea. My God, kaya pala ma'am yung relative ko na may diabetes mellitus. Ang sabi po ng kanyang attending doctor, you should always bring water every time you travel. Make sure you have a bottle of water. Sabi ng doctor, bakit doc? To prevent hyperosmolality. Naku, nakasalubong ka ng relative mo, sabi sa'yo, relative, isn't it that you are a medical technology graduate? Ano sabi mo? Aha. And I am very sure you are an intellectual student. Sabi mo, okay, what is your question? Sabi si relative, sabi ng aking doctor, since I am a diabetes mellitus patient, I should always bring water and I should avoid thirst. Otherwise, I will experience hyperosmolality and that is more dangerous than hypernatremia. So sabi siya, ano bang hyperosmolality? Ano sabi mo? Oh, it is so easy. It is elevated sodium, glucose, and urea. And that is not good for your health. Anong sabi sa'yo? My God, you are so intelligent. Hindi mo lang masabing, yun lang ang alam ko, yung effect ng thirst, di ba? That is the only thing I know. Di mo sabi, well, pagtalikod mo, thank you, Lord, for the opportunity. O, di ba? I'm sure you are learning. Nako, sigurado bukas, pag nakita mo yung relative mo na may diabetes mellitus, sabi mo, oh my God, make sure you avoid thirst. Ano sasabihin sa'yo? Why? Otherwise, you will have hyperosmolality, and that is dangerous for you. That is dangerous for your health. Why? Because that is not only increased glucose. That is accompanied by increased sodium and urea. Ano sabi sa'yo? Ang talino mo. Grabe. Pag hindi ikaw ang nagtapon sa boarding exam, nagkadayaan, sabi ng mami mo, you're so intelligent, anak. Hindi mo naman sabing, my God, yun lang yata ang alam ko sa diniscuss ni Madam Rodriguez. Hyponatremia is the most common electrolyte disorder. Ang daming emoji dito. O, di ba, children, may natatawa pa. Sana, wag mo kalilimutan yan, guys. Nako, siguro, panalo yan sa boarding exam. Hyponatremia is the most common electrolyte disorder. Kaya guys, simple question. How do we avoid hypernatremia? Thirst. How do we avoid hyperglycemia, hyperosmolality? Thirst. Because that is a sign. You have to drink water. Hyponatremia is the most common electrolyte disorder. Ma'am, paano ko malalaman may hyponatremia ako, ma'am? Well, actually, may ma-feel ka. We call it neuropsychiatric disorder. Children, eto lalo, kasi hindi ka nag-face-to-face internship-based training eh. Pag nag-practice ka na, meron ka mapapansin sa ER, they are conscious patients, but they could not even say and mention their names. Kinapapansin niyo sa emergency room, children, di ba kapag conscious yung pasyente, siya ang tinatanong nung doctor, hindi yung relative. Ano sabi ni doctor kay patient? Ay kay relative, huwag kang sasagot, ma'am, tinatanong ko po si patient. Kung naku, kawawa naman si patient, parang nahihirapan. Hindi ho, kaya gusto kong siyang tanongin because I would like to confirm something. Bakit? Kasi yung conscious patient, tinatanong ni doctor, excuse me patient, will you please say your full name? Si patient conscious, titingin lang siya kay doctor, pipikit, parang napaka-weak naman niya. Bakit gano'n? Parang hindi siya naririnig ng patient. Well, anong sabi? Sabi dito, ma'am, is it underwater intoxication? Ayan, something like that, Katrina Carlos. Kasi, remember that hyponatremia is due to, one of the reasons, due to excessive water intake. Masama naman guys yung sobrang water because it may lead to what? Neuropsychiatric changes. One common sign, there is sudden loss of what? Muscle, that there is sudden loss of strength, and there is what? Momentary loss of memory. Kaya di ba, children, sa mga provinces, pag mayroong isang tao na parang Ang sabi ng mga matatanda, naku, pakainin nyo ng salt yan. Parang hindi nagsasalita. Conscious siya, pero hindi nakaka-emit. Bigla na lang natulala. Bigla na lang so weak. Eh nakita ka, ano sabi mo? Lolo, that is hyponatremia. That is neuropsychiatric changes. That is because of what? That is severe water intake. Meron pa tayong dapat tatandaan. Diabetes mellitus is electrolyte imbalance. Naku, matagal na nating alam yan. There is hyponatremia and hyperkalemia in diabetes mellitus. Bakit nagkaroon ng hyponatremia? Because for every 100 milligram increase in blood glucose, what is that? Hyperglycemia. There is hyponatremia. At what level? So the sodium decreases by what? 1.6. Naku, natanong na yan sa board exam pre-pandemic, guys. Sabi nila, hindi ko sinabi. Sila ang nagkwento sa akin. Hyperglycemia is hyponatremia. Remember the relationship, 100 milligram increase in blood glucose, sodium decreases by 1.6. What is artifactual hyponatremia? Artifactual is pseudo. That is other term for pseudo. What is the usual cause? This is fictitious hyponatremia. What is the most common cause? Oh, careful in the question. Hemolysis is pseudo hyperkalemia and pseudo hyponatremia. Bakit sa sodium false decrease? Kasi pag na-lyse yung red cell, may lumalabas sa mga tinatawag nating cellular fluid. And that cellular fluid dilutes the sample. That's why it is pseudo-hyponatremia. Another cause of pseudo-hyponatremia or artifactual hyponatremia, turbidity, milky specimen due to elevated triglyceride. Turbidity, one reason is because of increased protein. Fictitious hyponatremia. How about potassium? This is the major intracellular cation, and this is only 2% in plasma. Take note, 98% of potassium is inside the red cell and cell. And this is truly the major cellular cation. My goodness gracious, great balls of fire. What is the only analyte, biochemical analyte, present in your blood and my blood, describe as the single most important analyte? How will you say that in Filipino? Nag-iisa at pinaka. Kaya ang tawag mo kay potassium, ikaw na talaga potassium. Take note of the description. It is the single most important analyte. Wala siyang katulad. Nag-iisa at pinaka. In terms of an abnormality, being immediately life-threatening. What do you mean by abnormality, children? There are only two definitions of abnormal results in chemistry. There are only two definitions, either hyper or hypo. Kaya lahat ng results na lumalabas sa chemistry section, they are all numbers and values. And how do we say it is hyper or hypo? You have to compare it against the reference values. That's why when you say abnormal values in clinical chemistry, nakita mo sa board exam, abnormal values, dalawa lang definitions sa abnormal, hyper or hypo. Do not forget that. In other words, anong ibig sabihin ng statement na to? Hyperkalemia is life-threatening. Hypokalemia is also life-threatening. That's why it is the single most important analyte. In terms of an abnormality, which is being immediately life-threatening. Ma'am, pag nag-hyperglycemia ba, agad-agad life-threatening? Hindi. Yung iba 500 na yung glucose, okay pa sila. 400, okay pa sila. That is not immediately life-threatening. Ma'am, pag hypoglycemia ba, immediately life-threatening? Hindi. Pag 60, magko-collapse ka lang. No? Magko-collapse ka. Iba, it takes around 50 and less than 50 before mag-collapse. Yung iba masyadong sensitive ang respond ng body niya. 60 pala, nahihilo na, mami, nag-loss of consciousness na. But it's not immediately fatal. Take note. Eto, pag nag-hyperkalemia ka, pag nag-hypokalemia ka, fatal. Bakit fatal? because potassium is a cardiac ion. Hyperkalemia will cause sudden stop of cardiac muscle contraction. At that is fatal, life-threatening. Yung hypokalemia mo naman, that will cause arrhythmia, severe arrhythmia. At that is also life-threatening. That's why this is the only one. Mapag hypercholesterolemia, threatening? No. Yung iba ka 300 na okay pa eh. Ay, ganun. Eh, mapag hypertriglyceridemia, fatal. Diyos ko, 10,000 milligram nga, nagsha-shopping pa siya eh. Hindi niya alam na, my God, meron pala akong acute pancreatitis. 8,000, 5,000, 2,000, okay pa ang feeling nila. Acute pancreatitis. Do not forget that this is the only one, children. Clinical level. Critical level, hyperkalemia, 6.5 millimole. That is the critical level. Take note. Hypokalemia critical level, 2.5 millimole per liter. What else? And what are the usual causes of hyperkalemia? Sinabi ko na kanina, guys, that the kidneys are the only organ involved in electrohomeostasis. So the usual cause of hyperkalemia is impaired renal excretion. Pag umabot ng 6 ang potassium, stop ECG. Kasi take note, 6.5 is already critical level. Pag tumungtong ng 8, oh my God, yun yung sinasabi ko, guys, lack of cardiac muscle excitability. That's why I am very sure you notice in some foreign films, di ba, yung mga tinatawag ng mga assassins, di ba, they are holding syringe, they will go to the room of the patient and they will inject something into the IV line, and after a while, yung patient mo nagka-cardiac arrest na, yun ay si potassium, si calcium yun, calcium. Take note, 10 millimole is cardiac arrest. And always remember that diabetes mellitus is electrolyte imbalance, hyponatremia, and hyperkalemia. What else? And this hyperkalemia is also dangerous because that triggers what? pH imbalance. Nakalagay dito, guys, acidosis triggers potassium imbalance. Bakit? Because potassium increases by 0.2 to 1.7. Naku, significant na yan. Kasi 3.5 to 5.2 lang si potassium. So when you add concentration to potassium, that is really dangerous. Every time the blood pH is reduced by 0.1 unit. So acidosis is hyperkalemia. How about chronic hyperkalemia? It is almost always due to impaired renal excretion. Therefore, how about acute renal failure? It is the most common cause of acute hyperkalemia. Acute renal failure is almost the most common cause of acute hyperkalemia. Pag sinabing chronic, nako, persistently mataas ang kanyang potassium. Okay, usually these are patients who are, candidates for dialysis and should have 3 times dialysis. Guys, ano bang purpose ng dialysis? To remove the waste products that were not deleted by the kidneys, that were not excreted out by the kidneys. So the dialysis machine is made to remove the NPS and anything excess in the blood of patients, just like potassium. The reason why there is a regular dialysis to remove the waste and anything excess in plasma, including potassium. Ay, kaya pala may kilala ako, sinabi niya na hindi siya kumakain ng anything rich in potassium and there is regular dialysis to avoid hyperkalemia. Truly. Take note of that. What else? And how about the pseudo-hyperkalemia? Eto guys, kahit hindi ko na ito isa-isahin ng sobrang haba because we discussed this already under patient and sample collection. Siyempre naman, children, ang tatandaan mo na dito, actually, naka-orange. Madalas makalimutan yan. Thrombocytosis is not hyperkalemia. Not hyper. False hyper. That is pseudo-hyperkalemia. And leukemia, elevated blast counts, that is pseudo-hyperkalemia. Bakit pseudo? Di ba diseases yan? Because the cause of true hyperkalemia is renal failure. Remember that. That is renal failure. IV fluid, syempre may IV fluid kang potassium. Recentrifugation of SST should be avoided because that will lead to the rise of the red cells. Avoid recentrifugation. Take note ha. How do we, ma'am, paano ko yung patient natin may thrombocytosis, ma'am? May request na potassium. Anong gagawin natin? Children, what is the best sample? If that is a confirmed patient with thrombocytosis and there is a potassium request, how do we avoid the false increase of potassium among patients with thrombocytosis? What is the best sample that should be requested? It is heparinized plasma. Take note. Heparinized plasma is the best sample actually for potassium measurement. Ma'am, paano kung yung patient, normal, healthy patient? Is it still heparinized plasma the best specimen? Yes, because normal clotting of blood release potassium. Take note, normal clotting release potassium. That's why the best sample for potassium measurement, especially if there's thrombocytosis and even leukemia, is heparinized plasma. What else? Hypokalemia, that is 3.0 to 3.4 degrees of potassium. Ops, may napansin ka. Whether hyperkalemia or hypokalemia, the most common cause, impaired renal function. Kasi children, ang electrolyte na favorite i-excrete po ng kidneys ay potassium. Diarrhea is the most common cause of extra renal loss of potassium. That's why, di ba lahat tayo nag-experience tayo ng diarrhea? Ano sabi ng parents natin? Oh, you have to drink grape juice, apple juice, take banana, take apple fruit, not just the juice. Because these are rich in potassium. And it is the most common extra renal loss of potassium, definitely diarrhea. Ang hypokalemia po, arrhythmia. Okay? Alkalosis. Take note. Hyperkalemia, acidosis. That's why this is the single most important analyte in terms of an abnormality being immediately life-threatening because this is a cardiac ion. The most important cardiac ion, do not forget that. That is definitely potassium. Okay, what else? And this is the last, we have chloride. This is the major extracellular anion. Natanong na daw yan sa board exam. Sabi nila, hindi ako ha. Sabi na ko, ma'am, yung open and close parenthesis mo sa chloride. Ay, sabi ko yung chief counter ion of sodium. Yes. This is the chief counter ion of, ma'am, bakit counter? Because this is the most abundant anion in serum. Si sodium naman, most abundant cation. Kaya counter ion, meaning opposite charge. And this is the only anion to serve as an enzyme activator. Lahat, guys, ng enzyme activators, cations. The only anion is chloride, and this is for amylase activation. And this is both excreted in the urine and sweat. And methodology, we have the ion exchange membrane. That is the most commonly used method for electrolytes. Okay? Sa next meeting natin, ipapakita ko sa yung summary ng mga methodologies. I'll give you 1-page summary of the electrolytes para hindi ka mahirapan mag-aral. Okay? ISE, this is ion exchange membrane. That is the most common. Also for sodium, aluminum silicate, ISE membrane. For potassium, valinomycin ISE membrane. Ito naman, ion exchange. Colorimetric titration, that is for the sweat chloride test. Remember the sweat chloride test, the diagnostic test for cystic fibrosis. But sweat test is not only chloride. It includes, okay, and the specimen consideration, nako, tandaan mo yan, metabolic alkalosis. And metabolic alkalosis is high What is the meaning of this statement? Chloride and bicarbonate with reciprocal relationship. Sila ang kay phosphorus naman yan. Reciprocal relationship. Ito naman, between the chloride and bicarbonate as in inverse. In metabolic alkalosis, that is low serum chloride, but that is high bicarbonate. That ends our lecture. I hope you learned something. Gising pa ba yun? Natulog na yata yung aking mga dear students. I hope you enjoy the lecture, guys. Hindi ko pa alam kung kailan ang susunod nating lecture. Thank you so much also to all of you. Guys, dahan-dahan ako nagle-lecture at bukod doon, actually hindi dahan-dahan, ang bilis ko mag-lecture because there are additional notes. Take note of the additional notes, the NGAL, yung lipocaline, yung liver type fatty acid, guys.